Please be advised that the following episode of Dystopedia contains talk of sexual violence which may be distressing or triggering for some listeners. Listener discretion is strongly advised. Hello and welcome to the 36th episode of Dystopedia. I'm your host Matt Davidson, and once again I'm joined by my colleague Andrew Hodgson.
How are you, Matt?
Yeah, I'm pretty well, Andrew. How are you going?
I'm pretty good.
What have you been up to the past fortnight?
A couple of things. A few episodes ago, I think I was talking to you about a book I was reading, The Chrysalids, John Wyndham, same writer as Day of the Triffids.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, I'm starting to. I had to put that on hold a little bit to start reading, Fahrenheit 451 in our last episode, so that went on the back burner. But I'm really into that, and just over halfway through that one, and that's a very interesting take on the apocalypse and I guess the rebirth and society being, I guess, controlled with purity as they see it, Yeah, interesting story. I think it might be an interesting one to do on here one day.
Okay, when did you write this one?
You know what, actually, I don't know, but I think Day of the Triffids, I think it might have came up before or slightly after. I think it was in the 50s.
Okay.
From memory. Yeah.
Interesting time period as well. Seems like we always tend to go towards 50s, 60s texts or movies or any kind of form of literature, don't we?
A lot to write about, a lot to reference, I think.
Oh, well, was changing a lot, wasn't it, back then, wasn't it?
It
was, yeah.
And today, I think a bit of closure. I think all those weeks ago when I, like an idiot, decided to upgrade to induction and ran into problems and thought the grass was green over the other side when it wasn't. But anyway, we ended up getting that done. Almost
$1,000.
Yeah, almost $1,000 later. But you know what? I'm glad I did it now that it's all in.
No, I mean, you showed me the dials and everything. It lights up like the Death Star, doesn't it?
It really does. You can see why I bought it, right?
Ooh, it is like that.
Yeah. Commence primary ignition.
It's funny how you get older, shit like this just excites you,
Oh yeah.
New toy, used to be new console or something. Now I'm excited by the control. I can do a bit of cooking. I can move things down to simmer, and it there's no lag. It just drops straight away. And
perfect temperature, right?
Perfect temperature. Yeah. So just the control. You got timers on separate zones. Oh, it just gets me off.
Oh, gets the juices flowing, doesn't it?
Yeah. What the fuck's become of me?
Yeah. Yeah, tell me you're not middle-aged without being middle-aged. Yeah.
I know. I say I'm not middle-aged yet, but I just so many things happening that make me feel like I am,
Yeah, it's funny when you're younger, you think, why do my parents care about this stuff, or why do they invest so much time into it? Then when you get to that age, you're like, oh, it all makes sense now.
It does.
Yeah.
Anyway, what have you been up to this last fortnight, Matt?
Yeah, I don't know, the year I've been going back watching old shows I watched 10, 15 years ago. So when I finished Firefly, I decided to watch another HBO show called Deadwood. So I've been watching that the past couple of weeks or so. I'm up to about season 2. It's set in the American West in 1870s, and it's that, when they're doing the Destiny Manifest thing where they're venturing out west, and they set up this town where there's gold and it has all these interesting characters and infighting, and they're kind of like their own settlement, like they're like a bit of a sovereign citizen kind of thing where they're actually their own. They're meant to be part of America and stuff. So yeah, it's interesting. So that's what I've been really watching at the moment. Some good actors in it actually. Got Timothy Oliphant.
Oh yes,
he's in it. Yeah, he's the main sheriff guy in it, and then also Ian McShane. I don't know if you've heard of him, an actor.
I've heard of the name. Yeah,
he's a British actor, but he does the American.
Let me have a look. Ah, yes, he looks like a villain.
Yeah,
as every good English actor does.
Oh yeah, he plays a role to a T, and then also has Anna Gunn, who played she was in Breaking Bad, who played Walter's
his wife.
Yeah. I remember seeing her before I watched
Scarlet,
yeah. I remember seeing her before watching Breaking Bad. I'm like, oh, she's the girl from Deadwood, but now she's actually more famous now for playing Scarlet than she is for her role in Deadwood. So yeah, there's a couple of good actors in it, and a couple of famous actors you see in it before they got big as well. So. But yeah, it's a good show. I recommend people to watch it. HBO, they, back in the 2000s, they knew how to hit the right notes, didn't they?
Have they really ever done anything bad, HBO?
Nothing comes to mind, really. Yeah,
Series 4 True Detective was fucking horrible.
Yeah, I guess
that was horrible. But
that's more the time period than actual.
Yeah.
I think they had influenced by modern.
And it won a fucking award.
Oh yeah. I remember you were telling me about it and went into like supernatural ghost stuff. I'm like, oh, what the hell is this? I'm True Detective. This is bizarre.
Yeah, it's a slap in the face to anyone that was into that series, but anyway, we'll let that go.
Yeah, that be buried. But yeah, well, on last week's episode, we talked about the classic dystopian novel Fahrenheit 451, and this week we're going back to Black Mirror, doing the episode Men Against Fire. So, as always, Andrew, when did you first watch this episode?
When I was going through my Black Mirror binge 2 or 3 years ago. I think as we said in our White Bear episode, I held off. I think watching Black Mirror until I think you said to me, "What the fuck do you mean you haven't seen Black Mirror?" With the things I'm into, and I thought, all right, I was at a loss what to watch one day, watched it, and God, I must have binged this. I must have in like 2 or 3 days or something. I was that hooked by it. So yeah, 2 or 3 years ago, I think. What about you?
Yeah, I'm very similar. I was kind of late to the party too with Black Mirror. I think I started watching around like 2017, 2018, around that time period. And yeah, it was one of those ones where like, you'd always see it on Netflix or something, and I'm one of those people too, when people tell me to watch a show, I'm like, oh, don't tell me what to do, so then I don't watch it. But then I kind of just, I caved in one day and watched it. I'm like, oh, I can see why people talk about this series and the anthology series, how amazing it is.
See, if I would have known it was Charlie Brooker before, I think we said in the last one, if I would have known it was Charlie Brooker, then I would have
straight into it. Yeah, exactly.
Just didn't,
Yeah. And it's fun. This episode in particular, it's not my favourite episode, but it's always one I always did remember though, because I found the twist in it very like, oh wow, this is like you could see this happening in the future kind of thing. Yeah, like a way that integrates with the AI, with their the Neuralink implants and
the mass implants.
Mass implants. I can see that going in the future, and then it's a very clever way of like how to stop soldiers doing certain things, or having regrets or not following orders, that it just blocks it out, so there's no risk of that happening. So desensitizes,
exactly, alters reality. And
so I always remember that scene, or the revealing scene and stuff. And and just going back and watching it again recently, I'm thinking, oh, I forgot about this part. Oh, actually, I forgot about it went down that direction, or this happened. Yeah, it's very well done.
Even you got to think, we'll get into it, but the context of the time, 2016, when there's a lot of xenophobia there's a lot of, you think of Trump's campaign, you think of Brexit. So
it's true. Yeah,
even the time that it came out, there was a lot going on. It was quite politically charged as well.
Oh, it is. All that was the build the wall time, and I guess I think we're all used to Trump now, right? So especially now, we kind of just expect it. You kind of just like off a wall stuff. Yeah,
I mean, this episode's almost 10 years old.
Yeah, I know.
2016 doesn't seem like that long ago, but if you think of the things, as you say, just there, like you can't really remember a time before Trump. Like, it's just the way you're just so used to it now.
Yeah, it's the same. It's like a war of ducks back now. When Trump says something, you're like, oh, so that's just him. But back then, it was really shocking. It was kind of like a politician's never been so direct and blunt. Well, not since other leaders of the past, but yeah, it was very shocking for the time, I guess, like the way he was talking and acting and stuff. But now, as I said, like, it's just, he might say that the one thing here, then do the next thing tomorrow, or whatever tangent he wants to go on. So, but yeah, no, you definitely see its influence on this episode. And as you said, touched on earlier, like Brexit. I think a couple of years earlier would have been, was it the Scottish independence vote as well, was around that time. So there's a lot of times where people are changing and wanting to reshape things and stuff. So, no, you can definitely see the influence of that, can't you?
You can.
Well, we just mentioned that, Trump and Brexit were obviously big influences, but obviously as well, like, modern military technology was a big influence on this episode too. So I think around the 2010s too, when we were really seeing, even just before that too, a lot of the drone strikes were happening, in places like Yemen, and
it was in Afghanistan, it was in Pakistan.
Starting to ramp up as well. And also too, like, the military was starting to use augmented reality as well for training purposes and stuff. And it was just with the drone strikes and augmented reality as well. It's taking that 1 or 2 steps back from the battlefield, isn't it? So instead of before where someone's flying a plane over, even though that's kind of dehumanized in a way because you're separated from being on the ground, but then now you're in like a studio or in a room back in say in Washington DC, controlling a drone striking someone in Yemen. Like, it's so the degrees of separation is like next level.
Yeah,
it's like a video game, right?
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, so you can see that, like, that the worrying trend of that going and how it's escalated now. Like, we're seeing it firsthand with the war in Ukraine, and we saw too within the Gaza Strip as well, right?
Yeah, well, you are, and I think it's clever in this episode where the way, like, there's even certain scenes where it goes to that first person mode and it looks like you're almost playing Call of Duty. And I wonder, Charlie Brooker's actually he's got a background as like a video game journalist and everything.
Oh, okay.
And you wonder if that's a little nod to it, like some of those first person elements you see.
Well, you think
it's being gamified?
Oh, absolutely. We think 2015, 16, like, the number one games were still Call of Duty, right? So that would have been a big influence on that as well. Another factor as well was that we see this too, where they refer to the character, also the others, as roaches. It's kind of playing on, obviously, Hitler's Nazi regime, and then also the Rwandan genocide. They were the two big key elements that were influences on, forming this episode, from a historical point of view. So we saw, obviously, with the Nazis, the way they persecuted, Jews, Romani people, gay people, black people, as others and scum of the earth beneath us. They're not, the equivalent of the white race or the Aryan race, whatever you have it. And I believe in the Rwandan genocide, one of the terminologies they would use was roaches to describe the other race, basically. So that's where that influence came from. So I found that really interesting how they use that as well in this episode. And I believe also too that Philip K. Dick and his book, The Android's Dream of Electric Sheep, that was another influence, and a bit of Minority Report as well. You can see aspects of that in this episode, can't you? Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, in some of the development history, something little known about this, originally, so the original title of this film was actually meant to be Inbound, and it was sort of written in 2010. Supposedly, so the original story for this was supposedly Britain is attacked by what seems to be aliens, but it's later revealed to be an invasion by Norway.
Interesting.
So I don't know if it's similar on the lines they were made to look like aliens or something. I don't know. Their reality was being altered from the other side. I don't know. Apparently it was pitched for season 1, but it was like actually rejected at the time or something. I think because at this time, season 1, it was on Channel 4 in the UK, and they didn't have the budget yet of Netflix. So this episode in itself was kind of very different from what had come before. I gather, and you could see it was a lot more big budget as well.
Yeah, a lot more production value.
Yeah, a lot more production value. So, so over the years, I guess Charlie Brooker refined the concept, I guess, into a psychological military allegory that we kind of see. We see today, perception, technology, and moral conditioning. He was reading, so a big influence on this were a couple of books, which is directly right. Well, it's actually the name of the episode, by S.L.A. Marshall, otherwise known as Slam Marshall. So Men Against Fire: The Problem of Battle Command. So this was written in 1947. He went on to claim that over 70% of Second World War soldiers did not fire their weapons. So
I've heard this has been disputed, though.
Yes, it has, and I think this is interesting, and we will get into it later. It's definitely disputed, and in actual fact, a lot of it's bullshit, in my opinion. But it's gone on to directly influence some things that have happened later. But that'll be an interesting chat a little bit later. But he read this. Yeah, I guess his findings implied that most people are resistant to killing, which to be honest is bullshit, I think. But this heavily influenced the episode, obviously, in the name and what you see there. And I guess it's directly sort of referenced in the dialogue later. And then Dave Grossman on killing. So the psychological cost of learning to kill in war and society. So this was written in 1995. So this was actually expanded on Marshall's thesis that humans have an innate aversion to killing. And he examined how militaries condition soldiers to overcome that barrier using repetition, desensitization, and simulated violence. I guess later this theory was kind of applied to like media and gaming, arguing that virtual violence functions as conditioning. I guess you would remember all this in the 90s, right?
All the way through to even the late 2000s, there was all arguments about. I remember it came up again too when the Oslo killings happened. Remember that right-wing nationalist did that slaughter of all those people on that island?
Yes,
because he apparently used to train for the shooting, playing Call of Duty and playing World of Warcraft or something. And they were going, "Is there a connection between the two of them?" He's like, yeah, you're just clutching at straws at there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I find that frustrating when they, you could technically use it as like a training simulation, but that doesn't mean that, one day he was a good boy and then he played a video game and now he's bad. Like, it's just, it doesn't work like that.
And if anything, that sort of stuff could be cathartic as well. You could get the rage out on there.
Exactly.
I guess it depends on predisposition and, where you are. But, since the start of media, really, there's always been that argument, hasn't there?
Yeah.
Like, you'd blame it on a book for killing, what was it, a Catcher in the Rye, you know?
Yeah.
You'll always there'll always be something.
Or Marilyn Manson calls Columbine Massacre as well, just like, in South Park.
That sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's actually go a little bit closer, like maybe have a look at what was going on in 2016. So we mentioned Brexit. So Britain was actually saturated. So the right wing were using, a lot of anti-immigration rhetoric. Tabloid newspapers regularly describe refugees and migrants as swarms. So it's not too far off. I guess dehumanizing them.
It was around the time when the Syrian crisis was happening, right?
Yeah. They were using things like swarms, floods, invasions. Words that evoke, I guess, infestation, right? And contagion rather than humanity. You're already painting them as other, as a problem. the language actually, this language reframed like refugees as threats. So again, you're turning compassion into suspicion, all that sort of thing, all this conditioning. Yeah, I guess there are several interviews where Brooker has actually cited refugee crisis coverage as a major influence. I guess he was actually disturbed how easily the public accepted cruelty when it was actually wrapped up in patriotic language. And there's all this fever. Well, obviously, Brexit happened, So, yeah. And then obviously, you already mentioned the Trump campaign, it was really fear-based populism, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's what were the immigrants branded as rapists and criminals and terrorists?
I assume some of them are good though.
Yeah. Apart from that, they're all right.
Yeah.
Build the wall, as you mentioned.
Or was it they're not sending their best, are they? I think
they're not sending their best and brightest.
Yeah.
I guess he's kind of broader commentaries as we go back to is how easily we can be made to hate. Yeah, on the filming and production, so it actually took 18 days, and he actually said it's inspired by the fearless high energy of Starship Troopers, and you can actually see
the helmets and the guns and stuff,
and the comparison to the conditioning and the roaches and the bugs and the
also to the male and female like insane quarters and stuff like that too.
And you don't feel like it's making a point, do you? You don't feel like it's trying to make some sort of political point or anything, or like the Me Too movement. It just is.
Yeah.
They're
combined they're just in that quarters together, right? Yeah, and they're all equal. And I guess to the end, we see those. We'll get to it later, but like you see the scenes where they're all having the same dreams and sequences, right? Where it's all programmed that way. Yeah,
it is.
Where there would be no fraternizing, would there?
No. And then you see the visual design. It's gritty, it's utilitarian, it's very Eastern European looking.
I was about to say I thought it was filmed in Eastern Europe, but I read it wasn't. It was actually all filmed in England, most of it.
Yeah. So there's a disused army barracks near London. Obviously, played the for that set. The forest set was just constructed for the village sequences, and there was just a disused farmhouse used for the roach nest. So in terms of the critical reception, it was praised for performances from Michael Kelly, obviously who played the doctor at the end, and Malachi Kirkby, who played Stripe. So their acting was praised. It was praised for its relevance to global politics and critique of digital dehumanization, but it was criticized for actually feeling overly didactic, which I had to look at the word didactic, what that actually means. I think it sort of is the point that it's kind of in your face, that it's like it's not actually exactly being subtle about the lesson it's trying to teach you, and it was you could see it coming. Now, I don't know. I've got to admit that I remember the first time watching this, I didn't see it coming. I expected a twist, but I thought it was actually quite clever. But people say it's less emotionally engaging than other episodes, and this one's often ranked in the lower tier, despite its conceptual ambition. Me and you we just had the chat off air, didn't we? How this one's definitely not my favorite one, but I think like all of them, it does have its place.
Yeah, it's one. I remember it's one I do always like. People will say, "Oh, what Black Mirror episodes?" This one always comes to mind. Like it's one. Not one the first one comes to mind, but definitely one of the top 5 ones I always think of, because it's just the way it feels like the one that was much could be realistic in the future, where they could do something like this to dehumanize someone else and use technology in that way. So then it takes the pressure and the angst off the soldier. I could imagine it happening. Yeah, and it makes sense, right?
It takes you down that dual use tech thing. We've said it a few times last week, but the road to hell was
paved with good intentions.
It's that sort of sense. You can understand why something like this. It's probably a good thing, right? That it kind of takes you away from that, but it's also a double-edged sword in that sense. The dehumanization and the
can be manipulated, right?
Yeah, but the outsourcing of the morals and stuff, it sort of also makes violence and war more likely as well, right?
Yeah,
and then it kind of plays into that whole rod economy and military industrial complex that is just good for business. The only people that win is the tech bros,
Yeah, exactly.
Silicon Valley guys,
100%. Yeah. No, what's interesting about this episode too is that it was directed by a guy called Jacob Verbruggen, and he directed a few episodes of House of Cards. Did you ever watch House of Cards back in the day? Yeah. And you remember, ironically enough, what killed House of Cards was when Donald Trump got in, because that became more unbelievable than the show. So it's better theater anyway. But yeah, he worked closely then he directed about 2 or 3 episodes of House of Cards, and this was at the time too when Michael Kelly was like, how good he was in House of Cards. Like he was like you'd have to say him and Kevin Spacey were brilliant in it. Like they were the 2 best characters in the whole show.
He's brilliant as a doctor in this.
Yeah, but it's like that character in House of Cards as the doctor in this one. Like they're very similar character traits, and this is what at the peak of his powers as well. And yeah, he nails this role to a T, doesn't he? He's that real like cold, methodical, manipulative kind of
banal.
Yeah. It was like the banality of evil, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is him to a T. So, and he's such a good actor in that way and portrays it perfectly. Interesting enough too. You've seen Succession, the TV show.
No.
Yeah, Sarah Snook. She's the head military girl. You know, that leads them on their missions.
Medina.
Yeah, because she's a big character in Succession. Because I'm watching it again, I'm like, oh, that's her from that. Yeah, before she got big in that show. So a little fun fact there. And Madeline Brewer, who played Hunter, the one that she
belongs there.
She belongs. Yeah, she's the good soldier. Never misses a shot or never. She always hunts people, right?
Yeah.
And she was in Orange Is the New Black. So
she was.
So I remember I recognised. I'm like, well, I've seen her somewhere before.
Yeah.
And then it clicked. I'm like, oh, there. That's where she's from. So yeah, a couple of other like interesting little famous actors here in this episode.
All right. So why don't we get into the story before we do? What are we drinking today?
Well, I'm still on the Goat Summer Ale. Still a nice drop, that one. So I'm happy
still going.
Still going. Yeah, can't get enough of it. What are you drinking today?
I've actually changed it up, and I'm off beer. I have been off beer for a little bit. I'm on the whiskey at the minute.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it Irish whiskey or
Scottish?
Scottish. There you go.
Yeah. So Glen Grant single malt, a few dry fruity flavors, and yeah, it's going down all right.
Coming in an aristocrat, mate.
Yeah. I am. I should have really had it when we were talking about some real sophisticated book or something, but I can't quite think of the book that would be. It's some high art, like Brave New World or something.
Yeah,
like Rub My Chin or something. And,
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ta-ta, yes.
Right off the bat, and I remember watching it again and then watching it for the first time. I kind of think the world looks kind of post-apocalyptic yet sanitized. That's my first thought when we go into it. Like it feels, there's the base is pristine. You've got the blue helmeted troops, which you mentioned before, and then like you kind of see like. I guess everything just feels sanitized and it feels cold, but I guess as we get deeper into the episode, that's kind of how it's meant to be, right? The moral outsourcing, the separation. We sort of start at the base, and then we kind of it goes to the bit where they're on assignment now and they're on the way to the village. Really, kind of gets straight into it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was kind of like they joke in the barracks too. Oh, this is your first mission to kill some roaches. Let's go, guys. Kind of thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. It's sort of normal kind of normal sort of military hijinks kind of thing, isn't it?
Pumping themselves up and ready to go. Yeah. Ready to action.
This is what they've trained for, and then straight away, I think. There's a couple of little things when, like, they're talking to the villagers, and it looks like it's very Eastern European in appearance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even later when you see the flats and everything, don't you?
Absolutely.
Very, very Soviet looking.
Yes, I would say. It felt like it's some Soviet block or something. Yeah.
Yeah. But then you see the what automatically stuck out to me was like the blue helmets, very like UN peacekeeping force, wasn't it?
Mm.
You see, it's very reminiscent of that. I don't know if there's a point he was trying to make. I couldn't find any reference to it.
Yeah, it kind of like also saying, and also too, we're seeing this, all the soldiers. If we said like male, female, black, white, doesn't matter what it is. Like it's all mixed into one thing, kind of thing, isn't it? Yeah. So you don't, and then also too, there's no insignia or something that says that it's the U.S. military or the British military or something. It's very ambiguous in that way, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's a bit when when they're talking to villagers and you've got that translation tech.
Yeah, that's the first I thought was they predicted bloody Google Translate, didn't it? Yeah, it's a little scary. When we talked about a couple of episodes ago how the AirPods are going to do live translation. So you got them in. I'm speaking Spanish, you're speaking French, and it will automatically translate automatically. It's just like
you don't need to bother learning languages anymore.
Exactly. Why bother? Yeah, this is like this episode, isn't it?
Yeah. But you automatically see here that everything's sort of blamed on the roaches. Then these sort of troops are like painted as heroes. Well, they stole our food, and there's some food left, but nobody wants to touch it anymore because the roaches touched it. And there's that woman with the baby talking to son. Oh, please protect us from the roaches.
Yeah.
And this is like this absolute fear. So you think, shit, it's building up. Like, what is this? It's like you're watching it for the first time, thinking, is this an alien force? Is there something? Who are these guys, Or
some like parasitical creature running around or something,
Yeah. It's kind of quite creepy, for the way it's sort of building up. But you can see like it's all sort of, they've stolen their food, they're spreading disease, they corrupt bloodlines. So it's kind of that fear of other.
Yeah.
That fear of other again.
No, I was going to say too, because with Black Mirror, it does some episodes have gone those weird like alien or werewolf or something territory where you think, maybe it could be going down that path or something. You don't know, right? That's the thing, yeah.
Yeah, I guess we should all know better with Black Mirror, shouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly.
When you think it's going to be something, it inevitably never is it?
No, definitely not.
I guess they get wind of a guy. What do they tell him? Oh no, it'll be
The old crazy,
Heidegger.
yeah, like a religious zealot or whatever he
Yeah,
is.
yeah. Oh, he's expressed sympathy towards him, so it must be him. He's kind of like society's outcast, isn't he?
Yeah. The old fashioned hiding him in the floorboards kind of thing.
Yeah, which I was very much what it's referencing, isn't it?
Mm.
And it's obviously brought to the point now where he's got the cross and he's obviously Christian and his Christian values and all life is sacred. He's holding on to his values there. And then they walk in, but you've got what's interesting is when you've got Medina sitting down with him. There's a bit where they actually fly the drone over, don't they?
Well, just before they enter the house, she like gets a tactical unit with her unit with her, and they're standing around. And this is the first case, like, because it does that kind of like the cinematic thing of letting the audience know, oh, hey, can you see this? And then you see the 3D model of the actual building because the drones just scan the whole building and they shot the gun to hit that other part of the building as well, I think. Remember that at the start, they shoot the gun and it hits that little beacon device hits the building.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and I think it scans the whole building and then the drone flies over. So then we see them, they're all using their implant to visually see the 3D model of the house. And then that's where they tactically go, okay, I'm standing here, so you go through entrance back here, back and forth kind of things, like a full-on tactical unit, which makes sense, right? So, and that kind of establishes us as the viewer where you're like, okay, these implants are like next level high tech where it's altering the soldiers' views. They're seeing things like a video games we're talking about before, where they've probably got like their health bar or something on the bottom there, and this kind of stuff. So, and that's when they I find it interesting to the way they when he opens the door and has it slightly ajar, and then she goes, "Oh, we just want to come in for a talk," and he goes, "Oh, we're talking now, aren't we?" Yeah, and then it catches off guard. They don't storm the building, but they kind of manipulate their way in, don't they? Yeah.
Yeah, it's something quite cold when they, when they're in, what's going to happen. But that she sits down with him, and she sits down, and it's that cold sort of. Then she goes into that, the body politic metaphor that we've spoken about a few episodes, where like, look, I get, you're Christian and all life is sacred, and you think these guys are worth protecting, but they reference a war. But you never know what happened, right? They reference a war like a decade before or something, and she talks about the corruption of her bloodlines and how important it is for the future of humanity that these guys can't be allowed to breed, and it's all framed as like these guys are sick, they need to be put down. I can't quite remember what she's saying, but she's framing it as she's using that body politic metaphor that again, all national regimes do, and all fascist leaders have always sort of done in the past, when they're trying to get rid of the undesirables.
Exactly. Yeah.
And she's justifying it, and they're all sort of bought into it, kind of thing. So it's all that, and then you're starting to hear the eugenic thought process, really, aren't you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it made me think of a couple of episodes ago when we talked about Gattaca. Like it's kind of like similar to Gattaca with the genetic stuff, but then it's more brutal in the way it's executed as opposed to Gattaca is. Because Gattaca is more about that, pristine society. Then you let the others, undesirables, go to the wayside, but they're not persecuted to the point of like being brutalized. But then they're excluded from society. So
yes,
with this one's they're going search and destroy on them and like trying to eradicate them completely.
Yeah, and I guess they see them as like a drain on humanity or something.
Burden, yeah.
They're going to be outbred or something, or they're for the good of the species.
Yeah, exactly.
Utilitarian logic, essentially.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is when there's no search warrant, there's no like any of that stuff. They've just gone through the place and then searched. It's a pretty big farmhouse, isn't it? Like all around the places, and this is when our main character Stripe, he encounters. Well, we up in the attic, isn't he? And then he removes the blind, and that's when he sees real life alien looking roach things, aren't they? They're like humanoid, weird.
They're like vampiric. They're monsters. They're quite creepy looking, right?
Yeah, it's something you see out of a B-grade horror movie or something, right?
Yeah, which kind of makes it creepier.
Yeah, and it suits the setting too of the Eastern European feel to it as well. Like
does.
Yeah. As you said, a bit vampire-esque as well too. That Eastern Europe thing, but yeah, like he because he drops one dead, and then the next one he's fighting, and there's screeching, and he has that was it a arm wrestling fight with him kind of thing?
Close quarters. Yeah,
and he ends up stabbing one to death basically.
In the most personal way, really. Yeah.
Yeah, or up close and personal. Yeah, exactly. So, and the thing is too when it happens, he's very happy with it. He's proud of what he's done. He's a bit numb, but like just still He did his job, right? He thinks he's doing the right thing.
But then it's that thing. It's like that rite of passage, right? Like that rite of passage. You got 2 kills. Christ, like
I can only dream of that.
Yeah, lucky you. It's like a rite of passage into obedience, basically, right?
Yeah. And I guess just what we mentioned too is that just before he kills the first and second, or first one, that they had put a flashlight, remember, in in his eye.
Yeah.
And this is when we start to see the first kind of the twist of the plot twist a bit, because that flashlight then starts to alter his implants and brain chemistry and how it all functions. So he gets little glitches here and there, doesn't he? Yeah, it's a bit like a glitch in the Matrix, Yeah.
Yeah, it is, and it really does it well of making it feel like he's been diseased or something, like it's done something.
It's like a computer virus or a bug or something.
It does that well. It really conveys that very well in the way that it's filmed. I think with this mass like neurological device before, when you mentioned we were talking about dual tech or something like this, you can understand why something like this would be implemented, but how open it is to manipulation in this world. Propaganda is just absolutely perfected, right? There's no need for ideology to be written on posters, or it's basically just coded into perception, right? I guess it weaponizes the side itself. I guess it just matches. We don't know it at this point, but it kind of matches what the state needs them to see, right? And it opens up so much when we think of personalized feeds and echo chambers and the way now that we're all kind of just, the whole world feels like that, right? We're just seeing what we want to see, or and then we're kind of told that we're right, and then our feeds fucking backing it up, because we're not really open to any other point of view anymore except our own.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially too in the current climate, especially in America too, it feels like the divide between the left and the right has never been further, culturally as well, and it's so easy. You see all this rhetoric too now on Twitter or Instagram or whatever you watch, or Blue Sky, and it's very much like the left are evil or the right are evil, and they're all this and that. They all sort of dehumanize them all too, and want to use any tragedy or any event as just because they follow that ideology or they follow this kind of direction. So therefore, everyone that believes in those kind of traits is brushed with the same tar brush, right? So yeah,
and it's like you feel like it all just comes back to social media, because I guess it doesn't matter. It's still engagement, right? In one way or another, it's still engagement, and it kind of thrives on it.
Absolutely, yeah. It thrives on people's emotions, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, good or bad. It doesn't really care what the damage is doing. Even you look at the real world mirror right now, I guess propaganda kind of always begins with a metaphor, but even in Ukraine at the moment, both sides employ language like, Nazis, vermin, terrorists, to justify force on either side.
Yeah.
But the only difference is this is kind of, in the mass system, it's kind of coded into the software, so
there's no dissonance anyway.
No, you're just doing what you deem necessary. Empathy is just coded out. There's no room for it.
Empathy's coded out, and also because it's so dehumanized and there's so many degrees of separation, then there's no PTSD as well associated with killing someone, because when he's seeing someone being killed, he's seeing a roach, so then it's it'd be like killing, like killing a fly or a bug, right? When we kill a spider or something now, it's not going to affect you like it would say if you killed a dog or a sheep or something, No. Yeah, it gets that degrees of separation, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it gets to then we go further into the plot too, when he goes back to the army barracks, and I find too, they're all sleeping there at night time, and each soldier, whether male or female, even their dreams are programmed, so they get rewarded based on what they did that day. So based on his result of killing 2 roaches, he gets a dream with the girl, right? So he gets to. It's always a sex scene, isn't it? Really, yeah.
Yeah, it is at the start, and you sort of, I guess you see her in the very beginning, and at the very beginning before the episode starts, you'll see her. And you think, oh, okay, must be a loved one back home or something.
Yeah, it must be his wife or girlfriend back home.
Yeah. And then you start to realize that, I guess, again, this fantasy is just part of the mass implant. So this is where now, and he has that. They be able to mention, oh yeah, you're going to sleep well tonight, sort of thing. So I think it's where he's sort of having sex, isn't he? It's and you're just thinking he's thinking of something at home or something. But yeah, this is where it's kind of a reward for. He's rewarded, isn't he?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And as he's going through. He's doing more training, he's at the shooting barracks with Hunter, and this is when we see the video game aspect again, where because she gets one of the roaches escapes when they're leaving the farmhouse, and she's really upset about that, because which is growing up on a farm, like we never let the deer escape or whatever they're hunting, and so she's extra training hard for the kill. And you're seeing with the training barracks, like they'll use what I read too is that in the military, when they would train at the barracks there, they wouldn't like use real human stuff. They'd use like they'd make it most dehumanized training target practice as they could to make it more easy for them to pull the trigger. So you can see that they use the roach caricature on the training barracks there. And what she shoots, and it's like, oh, well, you got 90% accuracy or something, wasn't it? And then I think he tries to do it, but then the glitch happens again in his mind, and it freaks out, and then he misses the shot. And this is when they recommend he goes to get the physician, right? And then he heads to the first doctor. The doctor tests him, make sure everything's fine, all his vitals are correct, even the programming and the technology seems to be working. So the roaches have worked some master scheme. They've done a Trojan virus on him.
Yeah, but yeah, LimeWire days.
Yeah, LimeWire days, exactly. He thought he was downloading Numb by Linkin Park.
Steffi Does Dallas.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But what is interesting, I wrote that bit down, and the fact that he's talking to the doctor, and all he seems to be, he's no, something feels off. Something feels off. And he's like, well, you're vital. The system says everything's fine, so you're fine, sort of thing. You're right. So if there's that human intuition thing, like no, there's something off here. Like how many times do you sort of hear that in the news or something when someone's been to the doctor or something, and oh no, they said I was fine, and I went to all these doctors and I wasn't feeling right, and then I said to one, and I ended up having cancer or something. You hear it all the time when like it's like GPs sitting there and based on this, yeah, you're fine, but like, you know yourself, sort of thing.
Yeah, actually that's funny because there's a YouTuber I watched. His name is Happy Console Gamer, and I remember like this is like 5 years ago. He got some weird virus in his lungs where the nerves got damaged from either COVID or the flu. And no doctors could ever diagnose it. It's like one of those rare conditions. And they told him, like, oh, maybe it's a psychological effect of it. And he's just like, it doesn't make... I can feel
I know
this.
It's off.
I know it's off. And eventually one specialist said, oh, it could be this one rare thing. And they found it was that one rare thing. Yeah, but that intuition, he knew he wasn't going insane. It wasn't psychological. It was actually something he was feeling. Yeah. As you said, that human intuition, you can't count, you can't factor that out.
Yeah, but more and more as we move away, it's like, oh no, system says this. So
algorithm, yeah.
Who am I to question that? That says do this.
Well, to bring up Gattaker again, remember when he gets a job interview, they don't even read his resume. It's
no.
like, bang, the system says you're fine, away you go.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
isn't
ultimate trust in the system, misplaced trust in the system.
Yeah.
Well,
this is when, based on that, then they think it is psychological, right? So that's when he goes to see our favorite doctor, Arquette. So. Yeah, and then Arquette's just basically, he's like the cool, calm,
military scientist sort of thing.
Then also trying to find any little faults in you as well, if you're questioning anything about the system or what the mission is. So he's finding those little cracks in you. But based on that interaction, we're seeing Stripe and like with Arquette, like he reaffirms like, no, I didn't, because he goes, when people kill something, they feel sometimes sadness or excitement. How did you feel? Because I felt really nothing, right? He was just kind of benign, bit numb to it all. So, but yeah, that as you said, that little human intuition, he knew something was still wrong, right?
And then what's interesting is that you're fine, and then he just sort of prescribes him a really good sleep or something, and that's where the point you realize that they even control their sleep, right?
Yeah,
it's like their systems, they're shutting them down, restarting them, and that's kind of where we see this. Do we get to we've already had the sex scene at this point?
I think there's two of them, because one's the one
leading up to it, isn't it?
Yeah, because one's where like it's just him with the girl by himself in the scene, and the next one was when wasn't it because it starts to glitch out in his mind what's happening.
Yeah,
there's like 5 or 6 come on screen at once, and then he freaks out.
Yeah, and then it freezes. Yeah.
Well, this is what I found was another eye-opening section too, was when that second sex scene, because that's when he wakes up during the middle of the night and freaks out. Then the camera pans away, and then you see every single soldier doing that same little hand movement that they're all doing. All it wasn't just him; all of them are programmed to have these same sex sequence and dreams or whatever it is.
Yeah,
and they're all twitching their fingers. Yeah, so it just shows like everything's programmed and everything's by design.
Yeah, they're not leaving anything to chance, really, are they?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, because you
let your subconscious back in.
Yeah, well, you think too, because male and female in the same quarters, like there'd be some fraternizing going on, right? But where this has all been programmed, they're scheduled to sleep at the same time, and they can get that release within the dream as opposed to amongst each other, right?
Yeah. That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really think of that. So now it kind of gets to the, I guess the next day. So they're on this is the point where they're on another mission again, aren't they? And you're starting to see, like, I think it's starting to falter now, and you realize there's something wrong, and he's just before they're about to sort of storm the building, doesn't he? Cracks, and he's like, I can smell the grass, I can feel the wind, he's starting to like, have you ever realized that? She's like, no, I haven't. The hunters, or no, what are you talking about, sort of thing.
Yeah, all his senses are coming to him, right? Yeah, natural senses. Yeah,
and it's like he's never smelt before, you know. But I think this kind of I wanted to get on to the point of this, quite subtle, but you spoke about it before, where, like, I think drone warfare sort of mirrors the way that certain soldiers would see the world through sort of certain framing. Obviously not to the same level as this, but in terms when killing, as we mentioned, is a very personal thing. Now, a lot of killing, obviously, is the killing itself, but there's the screams, there's the blood, there's just the general smell of it. It's a very personal thing, right? What we're actually starting to see here now, you mentioned before, like, the real world, I guess, parallel to this is the fact is, and what we're seeing now is drone warfare. Drones aren't really a new concept. Drones have been around. I think really the origins of them, they were used in the, we know them, I think they came into the battlefield in the War on Terror. So I think in like 2001 they were really used, but they were used sort of in those, the noughties to 2010s really as like, not full-scale warfare, it's like operations. So they used sort of help operations, although they were used for like almost assassinations and things like that. So I think they were used in like Yemen, Pakistan, Afghanistan, all that sort of thing.
Well, the logic was, from the military point of view, why are we sending soldiers into the battlefield to say there's a high level target in a building? Why would you risk the lives of our soldiers when you can just use a drone that can target something from the from the sky and wipe out the whole building? The massive issue was there were so many casualties that came with that. So you just blow this whole building up, you're just killing everyone inside. Oh, that doesn't matter.
Collateral damage.
Exactly, yeah. Oh, they were near the terrorists, so they must be terrorists. So, that's where the outrage comes from, why so many people in Yemen hate America, right? For those strikes that happened there.
Yeah, and you got to think about the people operating these things. Like, I guess it's much like the mass system. It will alter your perception. You're seeing it through framing. It almost gamifies it.
Oh, it does.
And you're not there. You're not going to smell. You're not going to hear the things that come with killing. So like it kind of feels clean, and like what you're actually seeing now is really like there's this distance that it creates. It basically, this fact that you clock on, kill through a screen, and clock off again. You're kind of seeing this birth of like cubicle warriors. Like you think like how banal, like detached but efficient. Like you imagine like sort of going to work, getting a train into work, setting up in your cubicle. All right, logging on for the day of killing. Right, well, what do we do? Yep, couple of kills today. Bang, bang, done. All right, go home again, sort of thing. It's just this fucking bizarre. Like a lot of these. I
won't do this mission. I've got to have my coffee break now. Like it's just
There's that banality of it.
Yeah.
Like, but a lot of the origins of this. So I talked about the strikes in Afghanistan, Iraq, Yemen, Pakistan. A lot of these remote operations came out of Creech Air Force Base in Nevada. So this is prior to the Ukraine war. The Ukraine war, now what we're seeing is like it's like the new battlefield. I don't know if it's going to influence warfare from here. Everyone's watching.
Oh, absolutely.
In this sense that like, so some reports, and they may be a little bit exaggerated, say that 70 to 80% of casualties in the Ukraine come from drone-related strikes. But that I think it's probably closer to 50. They may well be propaganda numbers as well. It's hard to sort of
What's crazy about the Ukraine war in regards to drones? Because what we're seeing those big, those like big predator drones that with there's like they look like such a banal like killing machine that would fly at the sky. Now we're seeing these even miniature drones in the Ukraine war, and it will have like kind of like a suicide thing, aren't they? So
I think they're the Iranian-built drones, aren't they?
Yeah,
I believe.
I've seen footage on Twitter a couple of times where there'll be like a Russian soldier or something in the field, and then you'll see the drone with the camera and it'll just like launch in this like suicide attack straight at it and blow him up. Just things like that where it's going next level with that.
Well, yeah, you look at the scale of it in Ukraine. So in 2024, they targeted making 1 million drones. In actual fact, they produced 2.2 million. This year, they're on track to reach 4 to 4.5 million. That's a Forbes article that I read on that one. Russia by 2025 are trying to, I think they're aiming for 3 to 4 million, but there is a gap. So they are actually now using, you spoke about it earlier in the year, or maybe it was the end of last year, they were using those Iranian Shahed drones to actually fill the gap. And I think they were sort of the kamikaze drones, that they're their side of it. What is actually interesting about this, and maybe it is kind of related to this episode in the fact that, the only winners in this war are really the tech bros.
Oh, yeah.
But the supply chain fragility, like everything. So, I think by 2026, Ukraine will probably, and there's every sign that this war keeps carrying on till 2026 and beyond. But God, it could be 6.5 million that Ukraine are making. The numbers are probably slightly inflated because, again, propaganda numbers.
Yeah.
It will be somewhere. There's always slight inflation, right?
Yeah.
But the supply chain fragility, I mentioned most of the world's watching. Where do all the parts come from for these drones? They come from China. So China have got no interest for this war to end either. So they're sitting there on both sides. It's profitable. It's not missiles anymore. It's fucking drones. So the world's watching. So if in time China is going to enter a conflict, if they were to, we for damn sure they're not going to be on the west side. So there is a gap there, right? That we do need to watch.
Yeah.
But look, on that, but what we're actually finding is they supposedly drone operators are actually facing moral injury and PTSD like systems. PTSD like symptoms. So despite never entering the battlefield, they are kind of, I guess, distance spares the bodies but not the mind. They are actually starting to get it. It kind of mirrors again how Stripe just, there will come a point where you'll crack and think, actually what I'm doing is not right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, back to the episode, this is where this is the most pivotal point when Medina gets sniped out of nowhere. I remember watching it the first time. I'm like, oh crap!
Yeah, I jumped.
I was like, jeez, I forgot about this part. Wow. Yeah, this is kind of like the first signs too. Where we're seeing, these roaches, they know how to operate a gun. They're kind of humanoids in a way. There's something a bit suspicious about this. And yeah, this is where they storm the building, and Stripe comes across a lady, and she's freaking out. And he goes, "Oh, I'm not going to hurt you. Stay calm. We're here to help. Kind of thing." And as the lady leaves the room, Hunter just shoots her dead, and then just keeps moving on. Then he's just in shock about it.
What have you done?
What have you done? You just killed an innocent person for no reason. What's going on? And then, as she goes up to the room, she sees a horde of roaches in quotation marks. And then we see it for the first time that it's women, children, helpless people all huddled in an area, and she's about to basically unload on them, and then he intervenes, and they get into a tussle match, right?
Yes.
She gets a couple of them, I think, before, but then it's where it all unfolds, and it's the first time with them. The veil's dropped. The Wizard of Oz is exposed. Where we see what it is for it is. We're seeing now that the whole time that they've been manipulated. They've been an alternate. It's been an alternate reality for them. They've been plugged into the Matrix to use your reference, but. Yeah, and then the penny drops where you're like, holy shit! This is a whole military, industrial complex kind of thing where they've altered the whole soldier's perception and reality to a point where they can just carry out these kind of deathly missions and not even think twice about it, and make it, as you said, look like a video game or killing some monster creature as opposed to another human being. And what I found interesting too is that when we see the roaches, or when they're humans. You're not like, oh, that's this race or that race kind of thing. They could be, they're anything. So there's no distinction between what's a they kind of look like the villagers we saw earlier on in that first scene. So how do you distinguish what a roach is or not? I think that's the whole point, right? The whole point is that anyone could become a roach, or anyone could be us or them, or considered that kind of, what's the word, bracket or something,
anybody, and it almost feels like anybody that doesn't fit the status quo could be, quote unquote, the undesirable.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, they can be a lesser,
Well, I think that takes us on nicely to actually, talking about the eugenics thing. Now, maybe we'll actually get into it when we get into Arquette's monologue, but it does actually touch on the eugenics thing. That's sort of when you look at the birth of the eugenics, I think in the late 19th century, really, in the Victorian England, it was an idea that was born out of Victorian England, and there was a lot of worry about the loss of control, where eugenics stems from is the fact that the rich and the powerful were too busy gallivanting and spending their money and educating themselves and not having children, where the working class are essentially breeding like rabbits. So there was this real fear that the dynamic was going to shift, and essentially the eugenics movement was really a response to that.
Yeah, and from what I've read too is that 'cause throughout human history, there's always been this thing about doesn't matter around aristocrats or whatever about the pure bloodline, right? So
Yeah.
this is when we saw too the 19th century with Queen Victoria and then the Tsars, and they all intermixed to keep the bloodline pure and stuff. But then the irony of it of making the pure blood, it made all the side effects come with it. So
Well, the dodgy teeth and all that.
dodgy teeth, or was it the Nicholas Tsar, the second son, who's a hemophiliac?
Yeah.
Just things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of it was like borrowing techniques from like animal husbandry and all that sort of stuff. And think, oh, look how we can breed animals. We can apply that to humans, surely. But without taking into the whole messy human experience and blah, all the rest of it. But what is interesting when you look at the eugenics movement, what was classed as sort of undesirable was feeble-mindedness and alcoholism and then it started with like they couldn't some sort of mental conditions they couldn't really explain. We saw a lot of how the handicap treated in the back in the day. They put into
schizophrenics and stuff.
Or put into just mental asylums and
lobotomized and stuff.
And it was horrible. But it was coming in and it started off as like sterilization, essentially. In fact, it was practically sterilization until Nazi Germany got a hold of it.
From what I read too is that with the eugenics thing, especially in America in the 1920s and 30s, it was a huge thing, and I think a lot of states, it was a state-run program where they would actually sterilize people.
Yeah,
I think over 50,000 people got sterilized or something like that. It was something ridiculous.
I think it was actually more. I know California, I think footed like half the bill. Yeah, in the United States, over 60,000 Americans were sterilized. 20,000 of them were in California.
Yeah, it's insane. Then the Nazi regime used the American system as like look how good this is.
They cited it in the Nuremberg trial. So when the doctors' trials after the main ones in 45 and 46, we got the idea from you and Britain, by the way.
Yeah.
But it's important to distinct that sterilization is stopping someone from breeding. Euthanizing is killing someone.
The T4 project was to a whole new level with it. Yeah.
Yes,
and I think too because before the Nazi regime, eugenics was viewed in a good light. It was a good thing. It's about we're trying to make the human race better. Like there was no distinction when it came to race and it was about getting rid of people with deformities, more that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, but what's interesting reading about it is it started.
Yeah, I know. It morphed into what it came later down the track.
It started like it started like that. But what's interesting, what got us onto this conversation was talking about the roaches, how anybody could sort of be a roach. What is interesting when you look back at, I guess, the eugenics movement and the feeble-mindedness and I guess a few other things we were talking about, it soon quickly went on to the poor being targeted, alcoholism, anything that sort of didn't fit in. Like in the end, it sort of looked like there's an interesting case, Buck versus Bell in 1927. So this is really when we talk about the United States when they sort of picked it up and ran with it. Important to note. So in Great Britain, eugenics was mainstream, but nothing was ever put into place. But there were big advocates. One of them being Winston Churchill. In 1910, a huge advocate for it.
Yeah.
The playwright George Bernard Shaw. So Churchill had actually backed sterilizing the feeble-minded. By the 1930s, enthusiasm had faded, but the mindset of like social hygiene, that whole body politic that again Hitler would go on to weaponize, stayed. But America, they sort of took it on and ran with it. So there's a famous case, Buck versus Bell, in 1927. The Supreme Court actually upheld forced sterilization. So Justice Holmes actually said there's a woman called Carrie Buck. Now she wasn't disabled. She was poor, and raped, and she was sort of institutionalized to hide it, basically. That I don't know, you're just going mad, and they sort of threw her away and put in the system, sort of hid her away and threw her in, and she basically wasn't diseased. She was just poor, but eugenics kind of called that biology. Like, why would you want to? It's unfair to bring someone else into the world. She shouldn't be allowed to breed and all this sort of stuff, and. And I think Justice Holmes, the judge, actually quoted 3 generations of imbeciles are enough, sort of thing. So this is where, look, the reason we say this again, and we're talking because of the roaches thing, is like it almost feels like anyone that is an undesirable could be sort of, he's a roach now.
Yeah, cast him into that class. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's the reason we get on about eugenics is, I guess, first thing we talk about eugenics. What's the first thing we think about?
Yeah. Nazi regime.
It's interesting to note that this was a mainstream movement throughout the late to
Yeah, no, literally, eugenics was viewed in a positive light until the Nazi regime, or until the Nuremberg trials, when it all got revealed.
Yeah.
That's when it changed perception worldwide, when
Yeah.
it all got revealed, or how far Hitler went with it.
Yeah. Yeah, and we were talking about Hitler. They went, 350,000 to 400,000 Germans were sterilized. You talked about the T4 project that kind of weaponized it. So this went on to, 200 to 300,000 disabled and mentally ill were murdered by doctors. And
well, they were the first to get really the gas chambers, weren't they, as well?
Well, this really was the blueprint for the Holocaust.
Yeah. No, and then what they do, the state would literally lie to the families and say, no, they're being held in a fun secret camp somewhere. We're looking after them. The state's looking after them well, and they're in a better place when they're just being executed. It's very cold and macabre like that, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it is, and it's uncomfortable for some people. Now, one of the favors that the Nazis did everyone was they wrapped it all up in like jackboots and uniforms, and we can all say, oh, weren't they terrible? Blah blah blah. Look at the things they were doing. Well, no, they learnt from.
Yeah.
They learnt from Britain and the US.
Yeah.
On this. So.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a scary thing when you said like Britain never passed any laws on it, where America did, but then the Nazis just took it to a whole nother level and made it part of the system and like part of like a routine, like cold, like we see in this episode as well, where it's just they're so desensitized to it, and it's become so routine and systematic, where it's not even like just another number on the board, right, kind of thing, isn't it? Yeah.
And I think there's even echoes of it today, like you hear about it where if you talk about if you think about when eugenics, where it came from, I guess essentially it was the Victorian thinking of the control of society, and we the rich, we the educated, we fear being overtaken by the poor. Essentially, that's kind of where it was born out of that fear. It makes me think of like the modern demographic panic. Particularly in the West, we've spoken about it before, me and my anti-natalist views and everything. But people, we're not breeding to the rate of, I guess, the people in the third world, and there's that fear. You hear people, why don't you want to have kids? We're not having enough kids. We're going to be taken over by this race or that race, and it's, I guess, like there's that. It's bloody fertility's kind of fucking wrapped up in all this patriotic talk now as well. Like you hear it, you hear those sort of fears being echoed today. We're going to be taken over. Like, fucking, so what? There's all that you hear this rhetoric sort of popping up now as well, and it has done for a little while. So it's kind of always been there. It's. I think it's always been latent, it's within us.
Yeah, it comes and goes in waves, doesn't it?
It comes in many forms, I think.
Yeah. Well, I guess too, what they've learnt from, instead of labeling eugenics, to label it something else now we're getting to the point where with breeding, like you could select how, with IVF, for example, or the kid's going to have this deformity, do you keep it? Or we can detect things now, or do we breed to a certain point where we perfect the perfect human going forward? And then that goes to this territory where, and we saw bring up Gallagher again, where is it ethically right to go down that path where you're breeding like the superhuman as opposed to just doing it the natural way we've always done it? So it brings up all those questions, right? And then going forward, the non-superhumans then viewed as roaches, like we see in this episode, because they've got the deformities. What we see when the speech Arquette says goes on later. It brings up all those like ethical questions, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, talking to ethical questions, like you can actually understand in some ways eugenics in a certain sense. From I guess you can understand the logic between the sterilization is probably a bit too far, in the sense, but I mean, it is controversial, but controlling who can give birth, essentially, you can understand that line of thinking. You can never enforce it because it's kind of a human right. But you can understand, like, bringing a child into a system where, like, they're not going to get the chance, or they're being born into poverty, and what sort of life is that? And there's certain things that, like, they're never going to get the chance to get out of that, and you can understand that, like, how can you ever control who can have a kid? And it sounds very right wing of me saying this. It sounds almost fascist, But I guess they explore this in I think Starship Troopers, when they mention, serving will give me the, I've got the right to give birth to someone, controlling who can breed and everything.
Yeah. You
can understand why that sort of line of thinking would be there, but like logically, but how the hell you can ever enforce that or tell someone they can't breed when it's, it's a divine human right, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Brings up another ethical question is then, would you then, if we can perfect it, would you then allow people to give birth to children that have, something like Down syndrome, or like they're paraplegic or something, or they've got some, cerebral palsy or something like that? That's where, like, I think most people would have to, like, subconsciously would agree that if they could change, say if they knew that they found out their kid was going to have that and they could not have it, they would choose that, right? Because it is, unfortunately, it is a burden, right, to have that.
Well, we're at a point now where you can make that choice.
Yeah. That's an ethical question. I think most people would say that they wouldn't want their kid to have that.
Yeah, and I think from the point of, like, it's going to be hard for you, but also it's going to be hard for them. And it does. It opens up. It's not too dissimilar. It's not too dissimilar from what I was saying in that sense. And I guess it depends on your morals, your outlook, your faith. There's so much to it.
Yeah, like I don't I have friends and have family that has kids that have had Down syndrome, and then when you meet them and chat to them, like, they're the most happiest kids you could ever meet in the world of people. They're always happy in the forefront there, but then they've always got to have minders and helpers, through life. Which is then, if you could, like, if there's a way to help them that way where they didn't need that, but then still be themselves, you would do that. But then, unfortunately, with the way it goes, it's not going to be like that. So, would you then stop it in the first place from them having it? It's just like it's one of those. Those questions, like those moral dilemmas, it brings up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what the episode does, doesn't it? It brings up these questions.
Yeah, and it makes you think.
Thought provoking, right?
Yeah. That's why we like this stuff.
Yeah.
It takes you to places you didn't think you'd be going to.
No, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, so
that's enough about eugenics.
Yeah, eugenics. Yeah. So after that sequence with the gunfight, he knocks out Hunter and he runs away with two roaches, with a mother and son, basically, isn't it?
And he's just been shot.
He's been shot. Yeah. So he's hardly injured, and they get into the car and they go on they just drive away, and then he almost passes out, and the mother and son help him into an abandoned barn, isn't it? Yeah, a farmhouse, or whatever it is.
They sort of go underground, don't they?
Yeah, they're underground, exactly. And then Hunter wakes up from being knocked out, and then she just follows like her name, hunts them down, kind of thing. So, but this is when it gets to the point where he has the first moral, or like the first, like, another awakening, I guess, because he's seen them now as humans, and now they're talking to him in English about, oh, you can see me, you can actually tell that I'm, not a roach or whatever. He goes, well, and then he has that, and he's freaking out, going, well, I've seen roaches before, I've killed them. And they go, no, you were programmed to see that. They wanted you to see that. That's not who you really are. The implants, it was, at first it started with, I can't remember what she said. It was like, it started off with this thing, then it escalated to the next thing. So,
what's also interesting is, but the villagers, they saw you as you are, and they mentioned, that's just propaganda, and it's years and years of it.
Yeah,
they believe it. So it's like state-backed propaganda, which I guess we never see. I'll kind of like to see, but they're all now indoctrinated into it.
Exactly. Yeah. I guess too, if you're in that kind of situation, you're starving and you're hungry, and you're relying on whether this military unit is, or whatever the country or nation, whatever it is that runs the society, and they're giving you handouts and they're helping you out by getting rid of roaches, you're going to follow that, aren't you? When you're desperate for food and survival.
I think it goes back to what Brooker was saying about the episode. I think when he mentioned that, really what he said about this episode is how easily we can be made to hate when given the right story.
Yeah,
and I think this goes back to the whole, the rhetoric around Brexit and Trump's campaign and everything, and the fact that Brexit and Trump happened off the back of, I guess, fear campaigns and blaming others, and a lot of nationalist pride. I guess it obviously it shows that was the dominant thought in society, right? I think that's ultimately the point that he's making with this.
Yeah, exactly.
With xenophobia.
And just another historical context as well was that we saw that during when the Germans invaded a lot of Eastern Europe, especially in, was it like Ukraine and Lithuania and all those countries, the Eastern countries there. Like, a lot of times when they rounded up all the Jews and the undesirables, in their words, they were the local population helping that, organising those mass killings, and people dobbing their neighbours in because they felt like it would benefit them. So it was how quickly one day they're your neighbour and your friend, next minute, nah, you're the other now. So yeah, and this will help, because now the invaders are gonna help us, and now whatever our thing is, we can discard you now, kind of thing.
Survival, essentially.
Survival, exactly, yeah. And it just shows you how quickly it can change on a dime like that.
Mm.
But yeah, like, and then we kind of, it's funny because you kind of think, oh, maybe he'll break out with them or something, or they'll find some alternative to become part of the resistance or something. But then,
But this is Black Mirror.
yeah, nothing there, nothing's left to chance, or there's no hope. Generally, in Black Mirror is there. Yeah.
No.
So yeah, Hunter arrives in the room, and because normally a lot of those shows they don't show you like kids dying, but yeah, he just drops the kid and then drops her and basically knocks him out again. And then we're off at the scene where one of the most pivotal scenes of the whole episode.
Brings it all together, doesn't it?
It's like the evil villain revealing all the secrets, right? So yeah, he's in that kind of like in a mental asylum room, isn't he, with all the white padded walls and Arquette just comes in and lets him see some reality and what was the real message and method behind of all the madness is, isn't he?
Yeah, and I think this is where we get into the most pivotal part of it. I guess his just the justification or the rationale for the invention of mass. And yeah, I guess this is where the truth comes out and the monologue, which I think is brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, and just to touch on too, that Stripe is like so disheartened, and it's like because the wall's been taken off his eyes. He's seeing the world for really it is, and he can't go back. He has to. He's accepting that this is what it is, and I can't partake in this regime anymore. So this is when he says it. Now we go into the speech, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what does he say? And one of the things that stand out. Now, initially, I take this at face value when he mentions, in the Second World War, only 15 to 25% of U.S. soldiers fired their weapons, or they didn't try and hit the enemy. They fired above their heads. And he's like, do you know what that tells me? That tells me that war would have been over a lot quicker if men would have just been made to kill their enemy. People don't want to kill each other, but they need to be made to kill each other. And it's all based on these findings, which, I think I contest that line of view because you've only got through all through human history to suggest that, no, we will, given the right circumstances, we will absolutely kill each other. We might channel it differently now and morally distance ourselves from it and make it look justifiable, but we will. And I don't think we've got any problem killing each other.
Yeah, well, especially too when it's kill or be killed too. It's not, there's circumstances. Someone's in World War II, say the Pacific War, the bayonet charge is coming at you. You're not going to be like, oh, I'm not going to fire my weapon now. Yeah. It's survivalist. It's survival instinct kicks in. You're going to shoot, aren't you?
Yeah. And I think he sort of goes to rhetoric. He talks about Korea, talks about Vietnam, and it ups to 80% and all this sort of thing. And people don't want to kill people that look like them. And mass was brought in, and he kind of gives in the whole rhetoric for why it was invented, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll just touch on like the book as well. Was it Men Against Fire? With those statistics, it's been because this was probably in the 1940s, I believe, a couple of years up removed from World War II.
So 1947, this was published.
And from what I gathered too, because initially people took it, as you said, took it on face value, and it was used for programs and used as a reference, for speeches or whatever down the track. But
you'll find, actually, this any article, and you look back throughout history, or anyone trying to justify that point of view that humans actually don't want to kill each other, will always reference this. They'll always reference the facts or the facts in inverted commas in this book to back that up. That 15 to 25% of US soldiers fire their weapons gets used a lot.
Yeah, I think a lot of it got misconstrued, like where it was all like secondhand accounts of certain things, and also too it was including people that never saw action on the front lines either. So it'd be using people that were in the offices as part of the stats, right?
Well, yeah. So just to give you a bit of a background, it was interesting. I actually find this is probably the most pivotal point of the whole episode. So this book was actually written by a man called Samuel Lyman Atwood Marshall. They call him Slam Marshall, basically for short. So as we said, written in 1947. So it claimed only 15 to 25% of US soldiers fired their weapons in the Second World War. But when asked for the evidence, there's no transcripts, no records, and the actual timeline for this is almost impossible when you look at it. But the most alarming thing about this is the military accepted these as fact because it was in writing, and it directly influenced sort of training, and they changed training regimes around it. And I genuinely think, looking at the link, I think this links to things like, you talk about the Vietnam War with body count. And I think this influenced things like the My Lai massacre and the desensitization. I think this is a direct link to it. The scariest thing is that the military took this on face value because the figures looked right. So the false data actually it reshaped training and psychology for decades. Obedience over morality's weakness. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
So basically, what they found with this, when looking a bit further into it, when he was asked, it was almost like, oh no, I was there, sort of thing. You weren't. I reckon he supposedly, like, he followed all the US at every battle and interviewed thousands of people afterwards, and he spoke to every division and every battalion. There's something like 100 battalions there. Now, if he was to take even fucking 5 to 10 days per battalion, which it would have taken, and he's looking at firing ratios and all this sort of stuff, it would have taken him over like 5 years. Now, the US were only in the war, what, 3-4 years? So it doesn't, something about this doesn't add up. So he didn't quite do the research. And it doesn't surprise me with what you were saying before. He may have, there would have been a lot of conjecture, I believe, with this. And sources close to him actually said that he never let facts get in the way of a good story as well.
Yeah.
So he actually saw Slam Marshall. Actually, he fought. I think he was involved in World War One, but didn't see any action. He fought in the Second World War, and then he went on to Korea and Vietnam in like in a sort of
advisory role,
sort of thing. Yeah, it's so, and funny. So much of being a journalist as well is almost trying to go against the grain as well. When there's a lot of excitement, enthusiasm in the air after the Second World War, like, oh, look at these boys, what these boys did for us, and he's almost like he's trying to go against the grain and be controversial or something. That's a part of it, but yeah, that's the thing. So you look a little bit deeper. So I think that what this episode's really saying is, like, the culture of numbers now. Like, it kind of made me think of, like, just because it's written, just because it's printed, and you see those numbers, it's gospel, right? Where, like, shit, controversial, but you get on, like, look at people using the Bible to justify things. Oh, it says this in the Bible, so what? But it's like, it's printed in book form, so it must be right.
People use ChatGPT for that today.
Yeah, they do. But you can see how, like, Arquette's monologue, you can see how, like, it mirrors this, like, calm delivery, like, almost like he could be reading off of a PowerPoint. Almost like, you think about the military industrial complex, and someone could pull up those figures. Oh, look, only 15 to 25% of people are firing their weapons. We've created this. Well, now the problem with that, it's going to take longer to win a war.
No one double checks it.
Yeah. And look, here's the problem. Now here's the solution. The mass implant. You could see him, like, with his PowerPoint deck, sitting in the room talking to someone about it. Yeah, as you say, no one checks it. It reminds me of being at work. Like, you just, fucking
automatically believe it. Yeah.
Your meetings day in, day out, and people are just throwing numbers on a screen, and numbers. It pisses me off when people say numbers don't lie, because they absolutely do, or they can be skewed. You can skew them to kind of look like anything if you want to.
Yeah, and then also too, a lot of, like, confirmation bias with numbers too sometimes.
There is. And as you say, nobody actually checks them. You put them on a screen, and nobody's actually got the time to sort of. I guess you just accept it as face. I know I've been guilty of that myself.
Oh yeah. Everyone
we're 63% up. Cool. All right. You don't. Is anyone going to check that?
Yeah, exactly.
No one ever does, and I think that the fact that, like, the US military took this on face value and ran with it is scary.
So it reminds me of that
prophetic.
I remember, at school, the stupid joke was like, "Oh, did you know that 90% of statistics are made up?" Yeah, and people go, "Oh, so this one's made up?" Yes. This is such a dumb joke, but yeah, it is like that though. Like, it's people just word off the mouth or reference one, oh, this institute says this. Or, you how many times you think with, like, how stats come up from, like, think tanks, for example, and then you think, oh, well, they put research, but then you find out, oh, this think tank gets funded by this kind of corporation. So, of course, it's going to find whatever little kind of correlation it can to come to this justifiable conclusion that the statistics fits this narrative, whatever, It's always going to be manipulated to suit the agenda.
It reminds me of a book, Robert Cialdini. I think he did a book, Persuasion, and I think he did Persuasion as well, talking about how, like, people trust data that looks exact. So, like, if you were to say, this is 25% of people said this, people are going to believe 23.9% of people said this more because it looks precise. Like, oh, well, why would they make that up?
Yeah.
It's funny the way it plays on the brain.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. These fake numbers will look scientific. So almost Arquette's view and the whole justification of building mass is built off of false pretenses and dodgy numbers, and you can absolutely see how it's so prophetic for this world. You can see how it's all linked to the military industrial complex as well. But as I say, that the fear, like, this kind of thing is, I believe this line of thinking. You go from the Second World War to now, like, I guess Korea. A lot of success was measured in territory, right? That was kind of what. That was what's, I guess that's how you would measure how a war was going or who's winning the battle. Where in Vietnam kind of went to the point of like, oh, there's no territory. It was kind of asymmetrical, the war, wasn't it? It was hard to, it was jungle fighting, and you didn't really know where.
No, guerrilla warfare, right?
Yeah, warfare. You had things like, you know, the Tet Offensive and all this, so you didn't know really where the front line was. And it was kind of the first time in history that had happened.
No one didn't really wear uniforms either. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, there was all that. So like, what you found happening in this rhetoric coming in, body count became the measure of success. It became like a fucking KPI.
Yeah.
I'm watching that Vietnam documentary at the moment on Netflix, and it's interesting in the sense that like it's all like everybody's fucking obsessed with body count, and you fucking like, oh, you know, we killed this many today, and it's politicians are using it in speeches, generals are using it, the fucking media's reporting it.
Yeah, we're almost about to win now.
Yeah, and body and it became this sort of fucking corporate logic of war, and then again it just becomes morality again, like this mass implant. Morality becomes a fucking weakness. It's getting in the way of you hitting your KPIs, mate.
Yeah.
Just worry about the numbers. Just look at the big numbers. Don't worry about the rest of it, you know?
Exactly.
And I genuinely think that's what leads to things like the Milo massacre. It leads to that sort of thinking, like, oh, the search and destroy missions and the they must have been Viet Cong. They're all Viet Cong. There's another 100 boys, you know? Like, I think that line of thinking is that's what's done it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. No, it's scary things when it goes to that point, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and that's what like kind of I find that, and I wonder when I'm thinking of Arquette's speech, I'm wondering if that's ultimately the point that Brooker was trying to make with this episode. How this whole thing's just, it's subtle the way he just spits out numbers, and he spits out, he's saying, oh, you know, this many men fired here, this many men fired here, this is why I have to make this, and it's like it's all built off of bullshit, and we all just buy it, and I that's kind of what I take away from it. Only in researching, because I take it in face value, and I was about to write down, oh, isn't it interesting? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, fuck, those numbers are bullshit.
Yeah. No, I was very similar too, because it does make, because I think a lot of times too, where war's so glamorized, especially in movies and the media and stuff, where, you know, especially in all the old tales and old books about, you know, all the famous war heroes and generals going on the march and, you know, bringing victory to their nation or whatever it is, and then you know. How many times have we seen in war movies and stuff like, you never see, you know, friendly fire or mistakes here where, you know, a drone or a missile strike hits their own people by mistake. You never really see that. It's never really talked about or, you know, shown the realities of war. And you could imagine, like, if someone said to you initially, oh, do you only know 15 or 25% people actually fired their firearms in World War II? You think, oh, that's interesting, because we always hear about the glory and stuff, but then, the reality is it's actually not like that. But then when you dig deeper, it's like, well, when you think about it, what, 1/4 of the army, you know, fired shots. That just not make sense.
And also I think there was one he was talking about how like, oh, they missed on, you know, 70% or 80% of the time, whatever the fucking, it's like the fucking Anchorman thing.
Yeah.
What was it?
67% of the time, it works every time.
Brian, I'm going to be honest with you. That smells like pure gasoline.
They've done studies, you know. 60% of the time, it works every time.
That doesn't make sense.
But the thought of like 1/4 of the army only fired, like it doesn't compute. Yeah.
But also the fact that when he mentions like, oh, you know, how many they don't aim or they're not aiming to hit them. Well, a lot of tactically, a lot of, you know, they don't want to. They're shooting over their heads or
cover
something.
fire,
suppressing fire.
Yeah,
that was a tactic that was kind of new to the Second World War. It had changed from trench warfare and just sort of charging, suppressing fire. But it became more tactical and more squad based and stuff. Where that was a very real tactic. So a lot of fire was to actually, you weren't aiming at anyone. You were just aiming to keep your enemy down, to not fire at you, which is the definition of covering fire.
And also too, there's a lot more machinery going around too. So why would you fire a rifle at a fucking tank? It does not make sense. You're waiting for more artillery to come in, or an airplane strike or something. You know, it doesn't factor in the evolving technology of modern warfare either, does it, all the time? So you can. What you said, it's one of those stats that it sounds great on a piece of paper or on the board. It looks fantastic.
Oh, if you want to back up a point and say something like, oh, do you know we're actually a real peaceful species? It's just technology that makes us like this. 20% of people didn't. Fuck off! Like that's bullshit.
No, exactly.
I think technology isn't the issue. I think it's the people. I guess it's Bradbury, what he said. It's Ian Foster. It's all the other writers have been talking about the fact that technology isn't the issue. It's the people who are using it.
Yeah, and then
violence is in us.
Yeah. I just find it funny too, because they're saying, "Oh, we're less likely to kill people that look like us." Well, what do you think the American Civil War was? They were fighting. They looked exactly the same, and they're fighting each other with firing cannons and legs being blown off and blood and guts everywhere. Like, yeah, humans will fight over bloody anything. Like, it's and
it's a nice thing to believe, but
it's very idealistic.
Very idealistic.
Yeah. So no, definitely don't believe that stat. So yeah, as I said, like there are things in warfare that don't get glamorized or shown because it could be detrimental towards their objective. Like I said before, like friendly fire or mistakes and people going MIA and stuff. And there are definitely cases where people refuse to shoot or they desert and stuff like that. But I think it's in the minority than 3/4 of it happening. So
yeah, I do. I think there's a large proportion of people that probably would just fire in that direction. I don't want to hit anyone. I'm sure there was a large proportion of people that were there doing that.
Yeah.
But I guess push came to shove, and you had to. It was kill or be killed. You're going to, and the war was like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like there definitely are people that get the fight or flight or deer in headlights thing happens definitely, but they're not. That's more of an instinctual thing than opposed to like, oh, I'm seeing if you have a human being, I'm not going to shoot at them kind of thing. That's more like the instincts kicking in. But yeah, when as I said before, if you're in the Pacific War and you're seeing a bayonet charge come at you, like you're going to shoot, aren't you? Like as a reaction because they're about to fucking stab you with a bayonet. Like it's common sense, right?
It is. So yeah, it's. I think the one thing I take from this is the fact that I think it's rather prophetic that the writing of that book of how it was just taken at face value. It was just taken at whether the military believed it or not, it influenced their training regimes and went on to influence the psychology of soldiers and training to wars beyond.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think also too in Arquette's speech, then he goes on to because that was World War II and Men on Fire, Women Against Fire, sorry, and the episode's named after. But he also mentions in Korea and Vietnam, the soldiers came back and they had PTSD and they were using drugs and alcohol or whatever it was to cope with what the losses and the violence of what they saw. And so this is when we see he unmasks the reveal that we get to see the scene again that we saw earlier on in the episode where he's killing the roaches, actually what it really looked like, and then we're seeing him up close and personal, just killing innocent people and stabbing that one bloke to death, and you see the blood squirt, and then screams and everything, and then he can taste and feel it too, right? And and then how Arquette can actually show that to the actual soldier because it's been implanted, and the highlight reel of it all, like in showing it with the mask unveiled, sorry, and and that was a real scary part too because at this point Stripe's still refusing to comply with what Arquette's saying, and just wipe your brain. He doesn't want to go along with it, and he goes, "Well, that's fine. You can go. You can stick to your beliefs, but we're going to replay this over and over and over again. You'll see this for the rest of your life, basically."
And I think that's interesting is that illusion of choice thing, right? Where it takes him back. He's, oh no, everything that's happened here, you sign terms and conditions. You approve this, and they've got the video showing him show up to it, and he's just a kid who's like, oh man, now do you what does he say? Do you approve or do you consent to us using this and doing this? He's like, oh man, look, it's like a book. I didn't read it. And he goes, oh well, basically what it says is this and this, and we're going to use an implant on you, and you won't remember this conversation. But do you consent? Yeah, whatever, man. Yeah.
Oh, it's the pay good. Yeah.
And they play that back to him, and they could be altering his reality. I don't know, but then they again, there's that he doesn't remember it. But look, here he is, and then there again.
It's funny how it kind of interlinks with the White Bear episode of Black Mirror, where when she's getting chased, the main character, and she doesn't remember being that killer that filmed it. So then that moral dilemma of like, well, was it fair to punish her if she's becoming a new person, like a new persona, where this soldier's becoming a new persona? He doesn't remember his past life.
It's that psychological continuity thing where he's now dreams and everything's been altered. He's not the same person.
He's a different personality. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's interesting. Where at the end, as you say, I can make this end. I just need your consent. I need your consent, and I can make it all go away.
Yeah.
And there really is no choice, is there? It's the illusion of freedom. Like if someone said to you, "Are you gonna?" You can either live your life, I can replay this and you'll remember this for the rest of life, or I can make it go away.
Yeah.
There's no choice, is there?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Is it, am I going to stay here in agony, or am I going to take the I'm like the happy pill and just
Yeah.
just go back live in ignorant bliss, like the ignorance of bliss kind of lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
But sorry, just back on with the numbers where they talked about how soldiers had PTSD and stuff and all these kind of things. Because what it got me, the first thing I heard about that, I immediately started thinking about the Iron Saxons group, which were the death squads of the Nazi regime. So they were the ultra, like the killing machines of the SS, basically. Like they were the ultimate soldiers for Hitler so basically for people who don't know, during when they invaded Poland and other parts of Eastern Europe, especially like in 1941 with Operation Barbarossa, when it really went into overdrive with it, they got divided up into 4 groups, A, B, C, and D, and they went to different territories. They were designed to round up the Jews, the Romani people, whoever were undesirables, and then execute them in mass shootings. And it got to the point too.
This is the early Holocaust, really, wasn't it?
Early Holocaust, yeah. Or the Holocaust by bullets, they call it.
Yeah.
And these soldiers were the ultimate, loyalist, death machine, like desensitized kind of people, and even some of them couldn't handle like the psychological effect of having to slaughter hundreds of thousands of people was starting to affect them. So it just shows you that, like, even though these are the worst of the worst people committing these horrific crimes, they were even getting, and they viewed these people as so subhuman and vermin that need to be eradicated. It still affected them doing the actual grunt work of it all. So you can see them using. This is when the Nazi regime then realized, okay, it's affecting the morale too much. How do we then make it more what's the word, routine, or what's the word I'm saying, like you want to make it more systematic, I guess. Yeah.
And how do we provide degrees of separation?
Exactly.
And this is one of the big things we touched on in the Fatherland episode, when Heinrich, a big justification, Heinrich really, a lot of these guys reported into Heinrich, didn't they?
Yeah.
A lot of the justification at the Wannsee conference, which was the conference where they kind of decided of how they were going to move forward with the Holocaust. The scariest thing about the Holocaust really is the banality of the way it was organized. They're just sitting in a conference and bloody looking at slideshows and thinking, well, this is going to take this many numbers. Okay, it's just all reduced. The Holocaust is reduced to fucking data.
Yeah.
Essentially, that's the scariest thing about it. And I think that's why I guess we always hear about it for that reason of the bureaucracy of it.
Mm.
But one of his justifications was, look, we're going to need to come up with a solution because my men, my poor men are coming home with PTSD for having to do, obviously, they good work for the German people, but, they're the real victims here. Sort of thing. And they used it as a justification. And this is where we get the gas chambers.
The escalation of it.
The escalation, and it adds those degrees of separation now, sort of thing. And and you can kind of interlink this with like the mass implant, really. Essentially, it's the same thing.
It is
the same line of thinking.
It is exactly the same. Yeah, that's the first thing I thought was the Iron Saxon group. And when I watched that, where they talked about how the soldiers got PTSD, and I just thought of, as you said, like where Heydrich was talking about that at the conference, like just. It got to you can see the parallels in this episode and the Iron Saxon group, where they're putting so many degrees of separation and making it so systematic and dehumanized, where you could just view it as like, you're viewing them as a horde of people when you whack them into a chamber, as opposed to having to get up and close and personal, seeing someone's their brains being blown out or stuff. You can see that the way the soldiers do that. They've been now they're viewing the people now as roaches and as alien creatures killing. So it's not a big deal as compared to like killing an actual human. So no, you can see the parallels there, can't you?
Yeah, you absolutely can.
Yeah, it's yeah. And the scary thing too is when I watched it, I just remember thinking like, you could see someone using this technology in the future, like to do these things and make it easier for people to commit acts like that.
Well, it does. It kind of made me think of watching it too, like about even drone warfare, and that was kind of the modern mirror I took from it, with the whole like the framing and the gamifying and the degrees of separation. I thought it was quite similar technology being used for that, and I'm wondering, I can understand the justification for using it. I absolutely can. Yeah, as you said before, why would you want to send someone in when you can get a machine to do it for you, and keep you safer? But then, whether drone warfare or the mass implant or whatever it is, does it make warfare more likely for that reason? One of the biggest reasons for not going to war in the past is, think about all the letters we're going to have to write to mothers about their sons dying and sort of thing. Do we really want to do this? When in fact, if you're using machines and you've got the technology to do it, does it kind of make warfare more likely now? You know, for someone to think, oh well, you know what, it's this. You send in a few thousand drones. It's not going to cost us that much. It's not going to cost many lives. And there's also that line of thinking, and it all just plays into the military-industrial complex and the rot economy, and war's good for business. I don't think we'll ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll always. If it's good for business, I don't think it's going away anytime soon. Put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess too, the final scene we see in the show is he's wearing his uniform again, and he gets dropped off at his house at the front, and he's driven in like a black SUV car, and it's gone to some like dodgy area, but then he gets out of the car, and you can see it was every Black Mirror episode that's got some reference to the eye contacts, where you see the white of the guy's eyes, and he's seeing this idyllic household, and the girl that he sees in the dreams is there in real life, and she's like kind of like waving at him, like welcoming him home kind of thing. But then it cuts back to what the house looks like again, and you're seeing like graffiti on the walls and
like derelict
and it's boarded up and stuff. And then that's how the episode ends, right?
You do see, so obviously, but based on this, that he's made the choice. That if you can even call it a choice,
yeah.
The blissful ignorance. But you do see tears coming down his eyes, and I wonder, is he crying because he's home? Are they tears of happiness, or is he crying because it has the device that the roaches use on him had an effect? I don't know. Is he aware?
Yeah,
like it's ambiguous in the way it ends, right?
Yeah, I lean to more he's happy to be home as opposed to the roaches just being like helping him that device kind of thing. Because I always thought too, like, what happens when he walks through the door and it's like boarded up? How does that work? Because everything, all the windows are boarded up, the doors locked and everything. Like, what happens next when he walks to there? Yeah, it didn't make sense to me. I'm like, oh, but that's part of it. It's more the what the message behind it as opposed to what the actual logical part of it, like the physics of it and stuff. But yeah, it shows us too that not only has it altered his reality in the military, but also when he gets back home, back to civil life again. So he's thinking that he's meeting his wife or girlfriend, whatever it is, and they're in the beautiful home, and everything's gonna be fantastic and a brighter tomorrow kind of thing, isn't it? So, but yeah, it's not like that. They've even altered that, so they have complete control, like 24/7 control over him, don't they?
Yeah.
So yeah, every form of his life is now monitored and controlled, and what he perceives is what the military want him to see. So, and that was terrifying too, seeing that.
Yeah, and it's the illusion of choice thing again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he probably signed something else under that just to get him out, stop him from thinking that,
Exactly.
Maybe they've taken full control of him.
Yeah. No, it's crazy how it's got a couple of parallels to the Matrix, doesn't it, as well?
It does,
yeah. Just the being unplugged and plugged in, and what your perception of reality and his perception reality kind of thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything else you want to add before we wrap up this episode?
No, I think we've done that one. Again, for not one of their best ones, extremely layered.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So many modern parallels, so prophetic. It's referenced the time really well. We'll keep saying it. Charlie Brooker's a genius.
Yeah, definitely. As I said, like, yeah, not the favorite one, but always one that I always remembered when I think about Black Mirror. It's always the top 5 ones I always think about. Oh, yeah, remember that episode about the soldier alter reality? Yeah, it's one that you always think about. So, no, definitely. Like I said, not the best episode, but yeah, another solid one. Like, there's not too many bad ones, is there?
Not at all. No, not at all.
So, Andrew, what can listeners expect on next episode?
So we are doing a short story, another short story by Kurt Vonnegut, and I forget the name. What is it?
Yeah, it's a bit of a hard one to remember, but it's 2BR02B.
And what's that one about?
So I believe it is a short story about. Yeah, he seems to love these perfect worlds, Kurt Vonnegut, but it's at an age like it's people come into a world and the world population has to be an exact number. So when someone is born, someone then has to die. So population is very much controlled, tight knit. So yeah, it goes into that, and it's a metaphor for what was going on in America at the time and around the 1960s. So it'd be interesting to take and see where it goes to, because yeah, we know what Kurt Vonnegut's like. He can go into weird and fantastic places.
Yeah, more so than Bradbury, actually.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, as always, guys, catch us on our social media at Dystopedia Pod, which is at Instagram and Tumblr. You can shoot us an email at info@dystopediapodcast.com. We're also on YouTube at Dystopedia Podcast. like, subscribe, and all those great things. And on behalf of myself and Andrew, we'll catch you in 2 weeks.
See you then.